The Ahom kingdom was a kingdom in the Brahmaputra Valley in Assam, India that maintained its sovereignty for nearly 600 years and successfully resisted Mughal expansion in Northeast India. Established by Sukaphaa, a Thai prince from Mong Mao, it began as a Mong in the upper reaches of the Brahmaputra based on wet rice agriculture. It expanded suddenly under Mung in the 16th century and became multi-ethnic in character, casting a profound effect on the political and social life in the entire Brahmaputra Valley. The kingdom became weaker with the rise of the Maurya rebellion, and subsequently felt the repeated Burmese invasions of Assam. With the defeat of the Burmese after the First Anglo-Burmese War and the Treaty of Yandabo in 1826, control of the kingdom passed into East India Company hands. Though it came to be called the Ahom Kingdom in the colonial and subsequent times, it was largely multi-ethnic, with the ethnic Ahom people constituting less than 10% of the population toward the end. The 1901 census of India enumerated approximately 179,000 people identifying as Ahom. The latest available census records slightly over 2 million Ahom individuals. However, estimates of the total number of people descended from the original Thai Ahom settlers are as high as 8 million. The total population of Assam being at 31 million according to the 2011 census, they presently constitute slightly over 25%. The Ahoms called their kingdom Mong Kam. History. The Ahom kingdom was established in 1228 when the first Ahom king Chaulung Sukaphaa came from Mong Mao, which is now included within the Dihongdai Singpho Autonomous Prefecture of Yunnan in People's Republic of China, and entered the Brahmaputra Valley, crossing the rugged Paik mountain range. He was accompanied by his 3 queens, 2 sons, several nobles and their families, other officials and families, and soldiers totaling more than 9,000 persons. He crossed the Paik and reached Namruk on December 2, 1228, and occupied a region on the south bank with the Burhadang River in the north, the Dahau River in the south and the Paik Mountains in the east. He befriended the local groups, the Barahi and the Marians, finally settled his capital at Karadao and established the offices of the Dangarias, the Burhogahin and the Borgohin. In the 1280s, these 2 offices were given independent regions of control, and the check and balance that these 3 main offices accorded each other was established. The people that took to the Ahom way of life and polity were incorporated into their fold in a process of Ahomization. As a result of this process, the Barahi people, for instance, were completely subsumed, and some of other groups like some Nagis and the Moran peoples became Ahoms, thus enhancing the Ahom numbers significantly. This process of Ahomization was particularly significant till the 16th century, when under Mung, the kingdom made large territorial expansions at the cost of the Satya and the Kacheri kingdoms. The expansion was so large and so rapid that the Ahomization process could not keep pace, and the Ahoms became a minority in the kingdom. This resulted in a change in the character of the kingdom, and it became multi-ethnic and inclusive. Hindu influences, which were first felt under Bamuni Conwar at the end of the 14th century, became significant. The Assamese language entered the Ahom court and coexisted with the Thai language for some time in the 17th century before finally replacing it. The rapid expansion of the state was accompanied by the installation of a new high office, the Borpatragahin, at par with the other 2 high offices and not without opposition from them. 2 special offices, the Satyako and the Maranyiko Wigohin, were created to oversee the regions won over from the Satya and the Kacheri kingdoms respectively. The subjects of the kingdom were organized under the Paik system, initially based on the feud or kinship relations, which formed the militia. The kingdom came under attack from Turkic and Afghan rulers of Bengal, but it withstood them. On one occasion, the Ahoms under Tunkhan Borgohain pursued the invaders and reached the Territorial River, and the Ahoms began to see themselves as the rightful heir of the erstwhile Kamarupa kingdom. The Ahom kingdom took many features of its mature form under Pratap Singh. The Paik system was reorganized under the professional Khel system, replacing the kinship-based feud system. Under the same king, the offices of the Borfukan and the Borbarua were established along with other smaller offices. No more major restructuring of the state structure was attempted till the end of the kingdom. The kingdom came under repeated Mughal attacks in the 17th century, and on one occasion in 1662, the Mughals under Mir Jumla occupied the capital, Gurgaon. The Mughals were unable to keep it, and at the end of the Battle of Surighat, the Ahoms not only fended off a major Mughal invasion, but extended the boundaries west, up to the Manis River. Following a period of confusion, the kingdom got itself the last set of kings, the Tunkhangia kings, established by Gadadhar Singh. The rule of Tunkhangia kings was marked by peace and achievements in the arts and engineering constructions. The later phase of the rule was also marked by increasing social conflicts, leading to the Moa rebellion. The rebels were able to capture and maintain power at the capital Rangpur for some years, but were finally removed with the help of the British under Captain Welsh. The following repression led to a large depopulation due to emigration as well as execution, but the conflicts were never resolved. A much weakened kingdom felt repeated Burmese attacks, and finally after the Treaty of Yandabo in 1826, the control of the kingdom passed into British hands. Ahom economic system. The Ahom kingdom was based on the Paik system, a type of corvée labor that is neither feudal nor Asiatic. The first coins were introduced by Suklenmung in the 16th century, though the system of personal service under the Paik system persisted. In the 17th century, when the Ahom kingdom expanded to include erstwhile Koch and Mughal areas, it came into contact with their revenue systems and adapted accordingly. Ahom administration. Swargadeo and Patramantris. The Ahom kingdom was ruled by a king, called Swargadeo, who had to be a descendant of the first king Sukaphaa. Succession was generally by primogeniture, but occasionally the great Goains could elect another descendant of Sukaphaa from a different line or even depose an enthroned one. Dangarias. Sukaphaa had two great Goains to aid him in administration, Burhogahain and the Borgohain. In the 1280s, they were given independent territories. They were veritable sovereigns in their given territories called Bilat or Raja. They were given total command over the Paiksh that they controlled. These positions were generally filled from specific families. Princes who were eligible for the position of Swargadeo were not considered for these positions, and vice versa. In the 16th century, Suhungmung added a third Gohain, Borpatragahain. The Borpatragahain's territory was located between the territories of the other two Goains. Royal offices. Pratap Singh added two offices, Borbarua and Borfukan, that were directly under the king. The Borbarua, who acted as the military as well as the judicial head, was in command of the region east of Kaliabor, not under the command of the Dangarias. He could use only a section of the Paiksh at his command for his personal use, the rest rendering service to the Ahom state. The Borfukan was in military and civil command over the region west of Kaliabor, and acted as the Swargadeo's viceroy in the west. Patramantris. The five positions constituted the Patramantris. From the time of Supimpha, one of the Patramantris was made the Rajmantri, who enjoyed additional powers and the service of 1,000 additional Paiksh from the Jakaichuk village. Other officials, the Borbarua and the Borfukan, had military and judicial responsibilities, and they were aided by two separate councils of Pukans. The Borfukan Sora sat at Guwahati and the Borbaruas Sora at the capital. Superintending officers were called Baruis. Among the officers the highest in rank were the Pukans. 6 of them formed the council of the Borbarua, but each had also his separate duties. The Norbacha Pukan, who had an allotment 1,000 men, managed the royal boats. The Batarul Pukan, the Nar Pukan, the Dihinja Pukan, the Deka Pukan and the Neoji Pukan formed the Council of Pukan. The Borfukan also had a similar council of 6 subordinate Pukans whom he was bound to consult in all matters of importance. This council included Pani Pukan, who commanded 6,000 Paiksh, Deka Pukan who commanded 4,000 Paiksh, the Dihinja Pukan, Nek Pukan and 2 Satya Pukans. The Baruas, of whom there were 20 or more, included Bandari Barua or treasurer, the Duliya Barua, who was in charge of the royal palanquins, the Chowdang Barua who superintended executions, Karnika Barua was the chief artificer, Sonadar Barua was the mint master and chief jeweler, the Bez Barua was the physician to the royal family, Hati Barua, Gora Barua, etc. Other official included 12 Rajkoas, and a number of Katakis, Karkatis and Doles. The Rajkoas were governors of given territories and commanders of 3,000 Paiksh. They were arbitrator who settled local disputes and supervised public works. The Katakis were envoys who dealt with foreign countries and hill tribes. The Karkatis were writers of official documents, and the Doles expounded astrology and determined auspicious time and dates for any important event and undertaking. Governors, members of the royal families, ruled certain areas, and they were called Raja. Charing Raja, the heir apparent to the Swargadeo, administered the tracts around Chaipau on the right bank of the Burhadang River. Tipam Raja is the second in line. Namrup Raja is the third in line. Members of the royal families who occupy lower positions are given regions called Mels, and were called Meldangja or Melkor Raja. Meldangja Goanes were princes of an even lesser grade, of which there were 2, Majamalia Gohine and Saramalia Gohine. Royal ladies were given individual Mels, and by the time of Rajeshwar Singha, there were 12 of them. The most important of these was the Radangja Mel given to the chief queen. Forward governors, who were military commanders, ruled and administered forward territories. The offices were usually filled from the families that were eligible for the 3 great Goanes. Sadiya Koa Gohine, based in Sadiya, administered the regions that were acquired after the conquest of the Satya kingdom in 1523. Marangi Koa Gohine administered the region that were contiguous to the Naga groups west of the Dhansiri River. Solal Gohine administered a great part of Nagaon and a portion of Charidwar after the headquarters of the Borfukan was transferred to Guwahati. Karjali Mukhya Gohine served under the Borfukan, administered Karjali Mukh and maintained relations with Jainsha and Demarua. Jagial Gohine served under Borbarua, administered Jagi in Nagoan and maintained relations with 7 tribal chiefs, called Satraja. Lesser governors were called Rajkoas, and some of them were Bacha, Durang, Solaguri, Abapa. The dependent kings or vassals were also called Raja. Except for the Raja of Rani, all paid an annual tribute. These Rajas were required to meet the needs for resources and Paiksh when the need arose, as during the time of war. Durang Raja ruled the later day Durang district, and were the descendants of Sundarnarayan, a great-grandson of Chilaray of the Koch dynasty. Rani Beltola ruled the tracts southwest of Guwahati, and were the descendants of Ga Narayan, a grandson of Chilaray of the Koch dynasty. Luki, Bardwa, Demarua, Tarpakuchi, Paik officials. The Ahom kingdom was dependent on the Paik system, a form of corvée labor. Every common subject was a Paik, and 4 Paiksh formed a Got. At any time of the year, one of the Paiksh in the Got rendered direct service to the king, as the others in his Got tended to his fields. The Paik system was administered by the Paik officials. Bora was in charge of 20 Paik, a Sikya of 100 and a Hazarika of 1,000. Land survey Gadadhar Singh became acquainted with the land measurement system of Mughals during the time he was hiding in Kamrup, before he succeeded to the throne. As soon as the wars with Mughals were over, he issued orders for the introduction of a similar system throughout his dominions. Surveyors were imported from Kochbihar and Bengal for the work. It was commenced in Sibsagar and was pushed on vigorously, but it was not completed until after his death. Nowgaon was next surveyed, and the settlement which followed was supervised by Rudra Singh himself. According to historians, the method of survey included measuring the four sides of each field with a NAL, or bamboo pole of 12 feet length, and calculating the area. The unit was the lucha, or 144 square feet, and 14,400 square feet is 1 bigger. 4 bigger makes 1 pura. A similar land measurement system is still being followed in modern Assam. Classes of people. Subinfa, the third Ahom king, delineated the Satgaraya Ahom aristocracy. The Chaipau, the ɓa'hāːhəm and the ɓa'həəm families, and 4 priestly lineages, the Deodai, the Mohan, the Bailung and the Chiring. These lines maintained exogamous marital relationships. The number of lineages increased in later times as either other lineages were incorporated, or existing lineages divided. The king could belong to only the first family, whereas the ɓa'hāːhəm and the ɓa'həəm only to the second and the third families. Most of the Borfukans belonged to the Satya ethnic group, whereas the Borbaruas belonged to the Moran, Kacheri, Chiring and Kata groups. Later on, Naga, Mising and Nara oracles became a part of the Bailung group. The extended nobility consisted of the landed aristocracy and the spiritual class that did not pay any form of tax. The Apik and Chamua was the gentry that were freed from the Celts and paid only money tax. The Paik and Chamua consisted of artisans, the literati and skilled people that did non-manual work and rendered service as tax. The Kanri Paik rendered manual labor. The lowest were the Lichaus, Bandi Beti and other serfs and bondsmen. There was some degree of movement between the classes. Momai Tamuli Borbarua rose from a bondsman through the ranks to become the first Borbarua under Pratap Singh.